Alright, I'm starting to put on the siding. I was going to put T111 on here, but I decided to put regular barn siding on here instead. It's kind of a bit more expensive, but it's lots more durable than T111 or anything like that. One of the things I want to do when I do this is make sure that the boards are perpendicular to the ground, straight up and down, so that they'll run right and such, which is not too bad, except in this particular instance with this arch you have a continuous curve going up from the bottom, where that first piece is basically from the full width at the very bottom, immediately starts tapering to nothing at the top. And I'm on the first one I made a template so I could get that cut out, but it didn't actually come out perfect, and with that long of a cut I had some, I don't know, irregularities or whatever. It wasn't a perfect cut, and so I've been using the power planer to kind of smooth out the shape of those and take down any high spots. Now when you do that, you're kind of freehanding the end of a board, so be really careful with that. Here's the template I made for the first board on there, and it has a curve that kind of, is really long on that first one. The cut is pretty substantial to make that whole distance. But on the as you go up, then of course the curve becomes less pronounced. But I'm still using the template as a guide to cut those out. So I'll measure a distance for the bottom on the outside and then the top for the inside, and use this template to kind of, round it up so it's not a straight cut between the two end points. It'll have a little more, just a slight curve to it, but I don't want to cut it straight off, in case that leaves gaps or something that you'll still be able to see when you put it up there. And I painted all of this ahead of time so that when I cut it, it'd be ready to go up, and then I wouldn't have to do so much fiddling around with it when I got on there. I painted it all with an air sprayer, so it kind of gives it a pretty nice uniform coat without any brush marks. But I put it up here on these sawhorses, and of course they're all red, and the little board I use for propping them up in the middle, that's red too. But I think it came out pretty nice. We'll see how the rest of this goes, but for every course, until it starts going straight across, I'm gonna have to do this patterning and cutting and everything like that with the saber saw. And I just cut it between these two sawhorses. I'll make the cut where it's kind of in the middle of the air. You just got to be careful when you come to the end of that cut, and that'll give you a rough starting point. And on these, courses that aren't as, as much surface area, the curve is not as critical as it is on that first one where I made the template. So you may get away without planing those, or if you do, you'll plane them somewhat less than the first one. I had these two windows given to me, so I'm putting them in the end of the barn, kind of, I don't know, same level as the top of the door really, and those are going to help get light in under the loft. But they had no framing or encasement or anything like that with them, so I'm kind of making it up as I go along. The first thing I did was I took a kind of a skinny board and stuck it up. I can't see it there, but you can see it at the top where it comes up the top. I've got it, you know, running along the inside of that board of the window. It's screwed to the side of the window, and then it comes up, extends above the window, so I can then screw the board back into the stud there. And then for the windowsill, I've got this 2x6, and I've got it cut for the middle. I'm going to knock that section out to go over this stud in the middle, so kind of make it look like one opening when it's really not. And then for the ends of these, I have the other part of the board that I cut off for this board up under here. It's cut off at a 12-13 degree angle, somewhere in there, and that'll give some slope to this. And when I butt it up under there, that will cause that to slope, so the water will run off. So this will be sloped at that same angle, and so when I cut it to fit up against the side of the barn, I'll use this to whatever depth is sticking out on the outside of the window to go on that casement, so it'll sit inside the rafter like this, but on the end it will extend out and over this board and kind of give a little ledge there, just for looks, I suppose. And that section will be cut out of here. I'll need to cut that end thing at an angle. That angle will go down to a certain stop point, so I can cut that section out. So this section will be removed with an angle cut here, straight cut here, and then that will go up against the inside of that stud over there. Alright, I just wanted to get a quick shot of the barn. It's a little late-ish, but I wanted to get this done. We're supposed to get some significant rain, and I wanted to get this end covered up, at least mostly covered up. I still got some clear plastic, corrugated plastic to put up top, but I wanted to go over a couple things. One being the difficulties, I suppose, in cutting all of those and planing all those and getting them all in there. And then of course around the window I actually got pretty lucky, because I really only had to notch one side. That side is flush with one board continuing straight up and down there, and then on the other side I just had to notch out a couple inches from that board to get around that window opening. And then I still need to build the window frame out and such, but at least I got the window in there. It looks pretty good, and more to come on filling that spot in above the door and around the door later. Alright, last night I finished the part over the door, and this little piece right here I had to make up to fill that last space. So this is a piece with two grooves in it, a groove on this side and a groove on that side, because the tongues came out from over there and I was building the wall out this way. And I was also building it from the other direction to meet up in the middle. So I cut that groove, put a bevel on the edge there, and then to finish it off together, I beat this last piece up from the bottom to fill that final gap. So it just kind of happened to work out just right so that this piece came to the edge of the door and finished right on the end of a piece right there as well. So I got one nice clean line straight up through there, and once I get that painted in, you won't even hardly notice that that piece, that board, I guess you'd call it, between the grooves is smaller than the other ones. But I think where it is, once I get it painted in, it will virtually disappear and it'll look pretty good. And then it's on to finish the top section off with some additional work up there. But I may build the scaffolding back up to do that. Alright, last night I got the top of the barn finished, at least on this end. Put those two sides together and the window in the middle. And above the window and below the window there is a little piece of metal roofing that I cut to make that drip edge so that it will redirect the water out away from the building and on top of the siding if it ever gets behind there. But that's going to wrap this version of improvements to the $500 shed. Probably spent, I don't know, maybe $200 on the siding and plastic for the window and such. Some of the materials were reclaimed or reused, like the metal roofing and those two windows, which I got at a yard sale for free.